You held it together, even when it was falling apart. You kept showing up, even when she started fading. You stayed loyal to someone already halfway out the door. You told yourself love was about holding on, that real men don't quit, that maybe if you just stayed steady, she'd come back around. But the truth, she didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because you were steady, and she was chasing chaos. You weren't her home, you were her holding pattern. And the longer you waited, the more you forgot how to fly. You've been told to move on, to let go, to man up, but no one told you how to carry the weight of being forgotten by someone you were willing to build a life with. No one talks about the silence after love walks out, the echo of promises never kept. This isn't about bitterness, it's about clarity, about understanding why you gave so much to someone who wasn't ready to receive it. In this video, we'll cut through the noise, not to judge her, but to free you. Comment, I. Don't chase what walked away. Number 1. You were the backup, not the dream. You weren't the flame she chased. You were the fire she returned to when the world turned cold. Have you ever sat in silence, phone in your hand, heart in your throat, waiting for someone who already made their choice? Not the loud kind of waiting, the quiet kind, the kind where you still go to work, still smile at friends, still nod when people ask how you're doing, but inside you're paused, like your life is buffering until she comes back. But she won't, because she didn't choose you, she kept you, and there's a difference. She kept you close enough to feel wanted, but far enough to never feel owned. She kept you like a safety net, soft, reliable, always there. You weren't the risk. You were the insurance. The one she could fall back on when the thrill faded, the plan B, the maybe someday, the if this doesn't work out. And you knew. Maybe not at first, but somewhere deep down, you felt it. The imbalance, the way she lit up for someone else, the way she only came closer when her world started crumbling. You convinced yourself it was timing, that she was just confused, that eventually she'd see how deeply you loved her, how safe, how steady, how ready you were. But here's the brutal truth. She didn't crave love. She craved validation, and you gave it freely. She didn't want healing. She wanted attention, and you were the most convenient source, the one who'd stay, no matter what. Let's talk about the illusion you were trapped in. The illusion that love means loyalty at all costs, that if you just hold on long enough, love will win. But love isn't supposed to feel like waiting in the dark for someone else's confusion to clear. Love isn't supposed to feel like competing with her chaos. She didn't make you wait out of love. She made you wait because she knew you would, and that's where your silence became self-abandonment. That's where your patience became your prison. You thought that being the one who stays made you noble. But sometimes, staying isn't strength, it's fear. Fear of starting over, fear of facing the truth, fear that maybe, just maybe, she was never coming back, because she never truly wanted to stay. Now breathe, let the truth in. You were never her dream. You were her emotional spare tire, there to keep her moving until something more exciting came along. And I say this not to break you, but to free you, because the moment you stop trying to be enough for someone who only loved your stability but never your soul, is the moment you reclaim your dignity. This is where the Stoic in you rises. This is where you remember you are Not here to be chosen as a last resort. You are not here to be an option when passion fades. You are not the consolation prize in someone else's story. And maybe she picked him. Maybe she laughed louder, kissed harder, ran faster toward that chaos. But don't envy that. Don't chase that. Don't become that. Because while she may have chosen impulse, you get to choose peace. And that peace, that silence, that's the place where your real life begins. This isn't love. It's ego wrapped in regret. And you, brother, you've waited long enough. Comment, I don't chase what walked away. Subscribe if you're done being someone's maybe. Number 2, her impulse wasn't about him, it was about her ego. She didn't leave for love. She ran toward a feeling that made her forget her emptiness. Tell me something. Do you still catch yourself comparing yourself to him? The guy she chose, the one she left you for, the one she smiled for while you were still bleeding in silence. You play it cool, but inside, there's a question that won't let you rest. Why him? What did he have that I didn't? Was it looks, status, excitement? You twist the knife in your own chest, trying to find an answer that makes sense, trying to rewrite reality into something that doesn't make you feel discarded. But the truth is simpler, and it's colder. She didn't pick him because he was better. She picked him because he made her feel more wanted in that moment, not safer, not more seen in the soul-deep way, just validated quickly, instantly, loudly. You were real, he was a reaction. And there's something you need to understand about that kind of woman. She's not choosing based on depth, she's choosing based on emotional heat. Whatever burns hottest, fastest, loudest. She wasn't looking for a man, she was chasing a mirror. Something, someone, to reflect back the image she wishes she could believe about herself. And you, with your calm, your stillness, your love that didn't demand or dominate, you reminded her of everything she wasn't ready to face, her inconsistency, her wounds, her restlessness. You became too real, too stable, too much of what she claimed to want, but wasn't, yet ready to receive, so she left. Not towards something better, just towards something easier to digest, something that didn't confront her with the responsibility of being truly seen. That's what the impulse was, not love, not chemistry, just ego, looking for relief, looking for someone to make her forget how empty she felt when the world went quiet. And brother, here's where the illusion burns away. You didn't lose her to another man. You lost her to her own unhealed self. You were never in competition because you were never playing the same game. You were building a foundation. He was a temporary distraction. You were offering roots. She was chasing wings that never learned how to land. This is where the stoic inside you breathes, where you see clearly, finally, painfully, that her departure had nothing to do with your worth. It was about her avoidance, her inability to sit in the presence of real love without needing to sabotage it. And now you stop fighting a ghost. You stop measuring your masculinity by the choices of someone who never knew how to receive real intimacy. Let her go, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with understanding. Because what she chose wasn't better. It was just louder, and now that noise is no longer your burden to carry. You don't need to compete with chaos, you just need to choose peace. Let that be your power, not proving, not chasing, just becoming the man who no longer waits to be seen, because he already knows who he is. This isn't heartbreak, it's the beginning of clarity. Number 3, love isn't measured by sacrifice. She didn't leave because you failed to love her. She left because your love revealed what she couldn't face within herself. You gave everything, didn't you? Every piece of yourself that mattered. Your time, your loyalty, your softness. You bent, you compromised. You stayed silent in moments you should have spoken. You gave her space when she withdrew, and grace when she didn't deserve it. You forgave without conditions. You were patient with her storms, and still she left. So now you sit there wondering what else you could have done, how much more you could have given, where you went wrong. But that's the trap. That's the lie your pain wants you to believe. That love is measured by how much you bleed for it, that the more you sacrifice, the more real your love becomes. But here's the truth no one told you. Sacrifice is only noble when it's mutual. When it's not, it becomes self-erasure. You weren't loving, you were disappearing. Piece by piece, every time you ignored your needs to keep the peace, every time you let her moods dictate the emotional weather of your day, every time you said, "I understand," just to avoid another explosion, you thought you were proving love. But you were slowly proving to her that you'd tolerate being unseen, and she didn't respect that, because people don't fall for what's convenient. They fall for what challenges them to grow. You thought your patience would earn her loyalty. You thought your consistency would ground her. But that's not what she wanted. Not really. She didn't want to be loved deeply. She wanted to feel wanted intensely. And there's a difference. You were love. He was desire. You offered calm presence. He triggered her chaos. You became a mirror, still and honest, and that terrified her, because when she looked into you, she saw herself too clearly, her insecurities, her wounds, her restlessness, and rather than stay and face them, she ran, not away from you, but away from what your love required. Growth, accountability, wholeness. You didn't lose her because you weren't enough. You lost her because she wasn't ready to be fully seen. You were never the villain in her story. You were just too real for the fantasy she was trying to escape into. And here's the Stoic shift. Love isn't sacrifice. It's not suffering. It's not staying when staying means losing yourself. Love is a two-way mirror. It reflects both people. It reveals both truths. And if one person is always giving, while the other is always taking, that's not love. That's dependency wrapped in emotional theatrics. You don't prove love by bleeding quietly. You prove it by showing up with your full self, boundaries, needs, standards, and being unafraid to walk away when those are disrespected, because the man who knows his worth doesn't stay where he must shrink to be accepted. He doesn't call pain passion. He doesn't confuse drama with devotion. You were never too much. You just loved in a way that required maturity, and not everyone is ready for that. Let her go. Let the version of you that begged for her love die with that chapter. And in its place let a new man rise, one who knows true love doesn't demand sacrifice, it demands alignment. And you're done breaking yourself just to be enough for someone who never knew how to receive what you were giving. This isn't your failure, it's your freedom. She wasn't rejecting your love, she was escaping the mirror you held up. Comment: I love without losing myself. Subscribe if you've stopped proving your worth to those who never saw it. Number 4. Waiting is a form of self-abandonment. She gave you her answer, not in words but in silence, and still, you stayed in the doorway she closed. How long have you been waiting? Not in days, not in weeks, but in pieces of yourself. How many moments have you stood still, staring at your phone, checking her last seen, imagining a message that never comes? How many times have you told yourself, she just needs time? She'll come back. You call it patience. You call it faith. You tell yourself it's strength, that you're the grounded one, the loyal one, the man who doesn't give up. But the truth is deeper, darker, heavier. You're not waiting out of love. You're waiting because you're afraid to accept that she's gone. And I mean really gone. Not on a break. Not figuring things out. Gone, as in, moved on with her life while you paused yours. You see, we tell ourselves stories when the truth is too painful. We make excuses for silence. We romanticize absence. We paint her distance as mystery, when it's really clarity. Because when someone wants to be in your life, truly, fully, you won't have to wonder. You won't have to overanalyze text bubbles or second-guess unread messages. You won't have to keep the door cracked open, hoping they'll walk through it again. You're not holding space for love. You're holding space for grief. You won't let yourself feel. And that's what waiting really is. It's emotional procrastination. It's postponing the reality that she's not coming back. Because once you admit that, you have to deal with what's underneath. The emptiness, the rejection, the hollow ache of having loved someone who didn't stay. But brother, hear me now. There is no nobility in waiting for someone who already gave you her answer. And she did give you an answer in the way she stopped calling, in the way she didn't fight for you, in the way she moved on while you stayed loyal to a ghost. That wasn't confusion. That was clarity. You just didn't want to accept it, and I get it. You didn't want closure. You wanted her to come back on her own, to realize your worth, to choose you. You wanted the movie ending. But this isn't a movie. This is real life. And in real life, waiting doesn't heal wounds. It deepens them. Stoic wisdom teaches us, you don't control what leaves, only what you allow to remain within. And by waiting, by keeping that flame alive for someone who's already doused the fire on her end, you've been slowly burning yourself. You're not waiting for love. You're avoiding mourning, because grief is real. It's raw. It's heavy, but it's clean. It passes through you. It teaches. It transforms. Waiting just keeps you in limbo, where nothing ends and nothing begins. So today, you have a choice, not to stop caring, not to hate her, but to release the version of you that lives in a paused world. To stop standing in the emotional doorway of a woman who closed it behind her. She gave you her answer, not with words, but with distance, and you don't need to hear it again. You need to feel it fully, so you can finally let it go. Because waiting is not love. Waiting is silence, dressed as hope. Waiting is a man abandoning himself in the name of a story that's already ended. Let that be your awakening. She's not coming back, and that's not your failure. It's your freedom. Number 5, closure doesn't come from her. It comes from truth. She won't give you the ending you wanted, but you can give yourself the peace she never could. There's something hollow about the way she left, isn't there? No real explanation, no conversation, no clean goodbye, just silence, or worse, a vague, cold, I need to find myself, followed by Instagram stories where she seems found, smiling beside someone else. And here you are, still holding the weight of the story, still trying to figure out what you missed, what you misunderstood, what you did wrong. You want closure. You want clarity. You want her to sit across from you, look you in the eyes, and say, here's why I left. Here's what you meant. Here's what was real and what wasn't. But she won't. And you have to understand, that's not a failure of justice. That's just how people leave when they don't want to face the damage they've done, because closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you choose when you finally stop chasing answers that wouldn't heal you anyway. You want an apology. You want her to say she regrets how she handled it, that you didn't deserve the way she distanced herself, that you were good to her, that you mattered, but deep down, you already know all of that. You know how much you gave. You know how you showed up when things got hard. You know how deeply you loved, even when it hurt. And if she couldn't see that, or worse, saw it and still walked away, then no explanation will ever make it feel right. She moved on, and maybe she did it quickly. Maybe it feels like she replaced you, like changing a playlist. And that burns, doesn't it? It cuts deep, because while you're here sorting through memories like broken glass, she's somewhere else, laughing, posting, existing like none of it happened. But that doesn't mean she's healed, and it doesn't mean you weren't real. It means she was done long before she told you, and that's the truth that stings the most. She left emotionally first. She mourned the relationship while you were still trying to save it, and now you're left staring at the door she closed, hoping she'll come back and unlock it. But that door wasn't built for you anymore. Here's the shift. Here's where you reclaim your soul. Closure is not about what she says. It's about what you finally accept. Accept that you may never know the whole truth. Accept that the apology may never come. Accept that she chose differently, and that you don't have to chase her choices to find your own peace. Let that be your strength, not indifference, not revenge, just quiet, grounded release. The moment you stop needing her to validate your experience is the moment you truly heal, because the version of her who broke you is not the version who can fix you. And you've been carrying a conversation in your heart that she already walked away from. So let it end. Not with bitterness, but with breath. You don't need her to say sorry. You don't need to understand every reason. You just need to stand tall in the truth that you showed up, that you were real, that you loved with everything you had, and that now, finally, you love yourself enough to stop waiting for someone else's permission to move forward. Closure doesn't come from her. It comes from truth, and truth, brother, lives inside you now. Number 6. Your peace is more powerful than her presence. She didn't walk away from you. She walked away from the mirror that showed her what still needed healing. You thought it was love. The late-night texts, the fights that felt like fire, the way her voice could drag you into heaven or drop you into hell, depending on the hour. You called it passion. But it wasn't passion. It was chaos dressed up as chemistry. She brought noise. So much noise, arguments that never had clear endings, silent treatments that felt like punishments, tension so thick it wrapped itself around your spine, made your shoulders heavy, made your chest tight, made your mind feel like it was constantly sprinting and never arriving. And somehow you mistook that for intensity, because the highs were high and the lows were soul-crushing. But you told yourself, this must be what deep love feels like. Unpredictable, all-consuming, dangerous. But here's the quiet truth you've been avoiding. That wasn't love. It was addiction. Addiction to the drama, to the rush, to the moments when she'd pull you close right after she pushed you away, when she'd say things like, "I don't know what I'd do without you." Right after cutting you down with silence for days, you were hooked. Not on her, but on the fantasy that someday she'd become consistent, that she'd finally see your worth, that your calm would be enough to quiet her chaos. But now, in the silence, in the painful, uncomfortable quiet of her absence. You're beginning to hear something different. You, your own voice, your own breath, your own stillness. And brother, that stillness, that's what she could never give you, because it's what she never had within herself. Her presence was loud, emotionally, mentally, energetically. She filled up the room with her need to be seen, her fear of being alone, her hunger for control disguised as vulnerability. And you were the grounding post. You made excuses. You tried to fix. You tried to love her through the storm. But love isn't enough when someone is addicted to their own turmoil. You didn't lose peace when she left. You found it. You stopped walking on eggshells. You stopped filtering your words, rehearsing your tone, wondering what version of her would show up that day. You stopped proving. You stopped bending, and for the first time in a long time, you started standing, still, solid, unshaken. This is the Stoic truth. Her exit wasn't rejection. It was a rescue. She wasn't subtracting love from your life. She was removing noise, because real love doesn't come with confusion. It doesn't make you question your worth every other week. It doesn't leave you exhausted, anxious, or hollow. Real love feels like peace, like breathing, like presence without performance, like being held without having to audition for affection. And now you know that. Now you feel it in your bones. You're not chasing storms anymore. You're becoming the calm. You're becoming the man who no longer needs the noise to feel alive, the man who no longer mistakes turbulence for passion, the man who values his peace more than her presence. Let that settle deep within you, because this quiet, this space, this stillness isn't emptiness, it's clarity. She didn't leave you. She left the version of herself that couldn't meet you in your peace. And now you finally have room to meet yourself. Comment: my peace is louder than her chaos. Subscribe if you've stopped mistaking chaos for love. Number 7, you weren't rejected, you were redirected. She didn't break you. She revealed where you still needed to heal. Let me ask you something. When she left, when she drifted, ghosted, exploded, or slowly faded, did you tell yourself it was your fault? Did you lay in bed at night replaying conversations, moments, looks, trying to find where you went wrong? Did you shrink? Did you make yourself smaller in your mind, more manageable, less emotional, less needy, more masculine? You thought maybe you were too much, too intense, too honest, too vulnerable, or maybe not enough, not interesting enough, not exciting enough, not sexy or successful or mysterious enough. You made it about you because that's what heartbreak does. It doesn't just take someone out of your life, it takes the floor out from under your sense of self. It whispers in the dark. If you were really lovable, she would have stayed. But here's the deeper truth, the one your pain kept you from seeing. You weren't rejected, you were redirected. She didn't walk away because you lacked something. She walked away because she was following a pattern, a wound, a loop, a lesson she wasn't ready to face. She didn't need love. She needed distraction, drama, dopamine, distance from herself and you. You were too real. You offered presence when she was addicted to escape. You offered consistency when she only knew chaos. You offered depth. But her self-worth only knew how to swim in the shallow end. So she pulled back. She blamed you. She gaslit, or maybe she just ghosted. But it wasn't because you were broken. It was because she wasn't ready for something whole. And brother, let this sink into your chest. Her leaving wasn't the universe punishing you. It was protecting you. Because had she stayed, you would have kept pouring into someone who could never hold it. You would have kept proving your worth to someone who only loved the chase. You would have become a version of yourself that existed, only to meet her chaos. But you're not that man anymore. You're not chasing closure. You're not rehearsing conversations that'll never happen. You're not blaming yourself for someone else's emotional avoidance. You're waking up. You're realizing that the pain wasn't pointless. It was a message, a redirection, a release. She was never meant to stay. She was meant to show you what you'd outgrown. You've outgrown waiting, outgrown chasing, outgrown being an emotional mirror for someone who won't even look at their own reflection. This is where you reclaim your power, not through anger, not through revenge, but through stillness. You're not too much. You're not enough. You're just not her pattern. You were trying to love someone who needed a lesson, not a partner. And you've already learned yours. You've already seen what staying too long costs. You've already felt what it's like to try to be chosen by someone who doesn't even know who they are. So now you choose yourself, not as a rebound, not out of spite, but because peace is too valuable to trade for temporary passion. Let that old version of you die, the one who begged to be seen, who needed to be picked, who thought love was something you earned by suffering. Let him go, because the man you're becoming, he doesn't ask why she left. He knows she wasn't rejection, she was redirection. And now you're not still waiting. You're finally waking up. Comment, I was never rejected. I was redirected. Subscribe if you're done being a chapter in someone else's confusion. You've carried her absence like a shadow, measured your days by the silence she left behind, tried to make sense of what never made sense, hoping maybe if you understood her choices, the pain would quiet down. But it won't, because the healing doesn't live in her answers. It lives in your decision to stop replaying the story and start rewriting it. This wasn't about being enough. This was about learning who you become when someone walks away and you don't crumble. When someone forgets you and you remember yourself, you are no longer the man who waits. You are no longer the man who begs for clarity in a fog of mixed signals. You are the man who breathes deeper now, who listens to silence and feels peace instead of panic. This pain didn't break you. It sculpted you, sharpened you, pulled you back into alignment with your own worth. And that worth, it's not up for negotiation. It's not something she gets to validate or dismiss. It's yours. It always was. So breathe, not to calm the chaos around you, but to honor the stillness within you, because now you don't need to be remembered by her. You need to be remembered by yourself. Comment, I am not who I used to be. Subscribe if you're walking away in silence, not to prove a point, but to protect your peace.